we would like to invite our elite panel member. Can we invite them on stage, please?
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And listening from morning, I was thinking, I'm just staying afloat. The challenges faced by L&D professionals and L&D leaders for different organizations are so many more these days. I remember when I used to study and started my career, we used to have 800 slides presentation running over 5 days. And the slides were not these slides, they were like physical slides. And the attention span was 90 minutes before we take a break. Today we are talking about 8-9 seconds.
Less than 8 seconds, rather.
So imagine the journey of learning, how it has evolved over so many years, so many decades. So I was wondering, the challenges are similar. Learner attention, curate, training, content curation, how do we deliver the training? And COVID played another role, big role, which accelerated this online, digital. How do we balance short-term, long-term? How do we balance physical or digital learning? How do we balance, whom to receive what? Hypots versus in the normal people in the organization. There are so many challenges that are being faced. We are getting some answers during these sessions, but this topic is so relevant nowadays that let's focus on this for next 20-25 minutes. Right? I have the elite panel, and I'm very honored to be speaking to this panel. And talking about balancing the needs, I would put up my first question to Jay in terms of, Jay, so, what is the most effective method to evaluate the current business environment to ensure L&D programs are relevant, future-proofed, and aligned with organization goals and KPIs? This is one thing that I'm hearing from every leader, including my own Sun Pharma's MD sir. He keeps asking, how do we make it more relevant to my current needs? And as the organization is growing and evolving, what are the future needs that we need to build in so that these people stay relevant to the organization? Jay, your thoughts on that?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So we're actually standing between y'all and lunch, so we're going to keep it very simple and as crisp as we can. So I think, someone like us being in talent and learning this function, I personally believe we are not directly in the business, but we are for the business, So I think the best bet for us in terms of understanding what's the business environment which will help us, curate more relevant interventions is nothing better than leveraging our relationships with business deeply, to understand what's happening. So I'm part of K. Raheja Corp, and I'll tell you two things what we categorically and consciously do is one is at an intervention level, and the second is when we approach understanding of learning needs. So these are two ways we do it. So when I say at an intervention level, if I have to give you example of, let's say, a leadership intervention, when we're talking about an intervention which is, let's say, 6 to 8 month long, we're talking about developing critical leadership skills. So one thing what has worked very well for us is we involve the CEOs right in the conceptualization and the design phase. Giving an example of, since you mentioned high potential, so we do run our high potential program every alternate years, and the advantage of involving a CEO right from conceptualizing to a designing phase is in the sense, of course, you get a fairly macro level view of what is the current business environment. You get to also understand that, what are some of the challenges the business is facing, and how is it impacting business, how is it impacting people. So, of course, normally we all feel that we only require senior people, more from a budget and a blessing perspective, but, for us, this is very strongly worked of involving them. So this helps us building the interventions very relevant to business. And the second way what we do is we get a little bit more micro. So when we're planning our learning interventions for the year, sometimes it does happen at the start of the year, sometimes it goes on throughout the year, where we actually catch up with the head of departments or the function heads, which is normally my -1, -2, -3 level. So we don't rely only on the traditional T&I approach of, launching a survey, getting to know what are your training needs, because you ask one, you'll get 100, laundry list. So what we do is when we connect with the function heads, that's another thing. What we do is we again keep the similar lens in head when we're having discussions with them. So we all know that these are also senior folks. They know the current business environment, but we understand their perspective. Then we go deeper in terms of how does it impact their function. Because then we understand what are the nuances. If I'm talking to a finance HOD, how does it impact finance as a function, and what are the repercussions they see, and then help us identify what are some of the critical skills. So I think we started it off from the leadership interventions, and now absolutely everything what we do is, we involve business. So as a head of a function, the amount of time I spend in designing an intervention, I make sure the equal amount is spent by the business, So that's how it's working well for us. And last, a small point, what we recently started doing is, all of us send a lot of our people to industry seminars, they go to industry conferences, whether it's retail or hospitality, all of our businesses. What we do is once they are back, we help them do highlight sessions as well, in terms of what have they learned. Because not just us, I think in general, overall, all the function gets to know, what's happening. So these are some of the things what we practice.
Sure. So Usha, you come from a conglomerate, Kotak, and being the corporate resource, how do you see this as a challenge, to understand the business needs and then convert them to relevant learning interventions?
A big challenge for that matter. I'm sure I've got my colleagues also here who are from business L&D function. What Jay rightly said is getting the sponsorship from business. But what we do is we get manager onboarded. Very, very critical again. Specifically in a distributed work environment or a retail environment like ours, getting all business sponsorship is sometimes very, very difficult. And hence we go back to the micro level and we get learners sponsorship as well as a manager sponsorship. A lot of our programs are democratized, yeah. So it's more of a pull than the push, apart from the mandatory and compliance for sure. But most of our programs are very learner-centric. And those are not event-based. We talk a lot about hybrid, blended learning. We have a lot of action learning projects. These action learning projects are sponsored by businesses again. They act as a mentors, and hence their skin in the game is very much there. Most of our programs, we ensure that managers are just not informed, but they are playing a very crucial role in ensuring that the learners adapt learning. There's a behavior change. So we certainly run a lot of surveys, 360, 180, what Jay was again mentioning about, along with a lot of assessment centers. But everything comes from business and the managers, being learner-centric at the same time.
I think it's very interesting, how do you make learner-centric programs so that it becomes a push rather than a pull strategy. So just a continuing question on that, the action learning project that you mentioned, how do people really take part in that? Because we have seen, at least for action learning projects, we have to push a lot of content to them.
Absolutely.
And it is in their own interest only.
Absolutely, I so agree. In, again, the work environment where we are, it's very important to understand what the KPIs we're talking about learners, right? We obviously create a lot of leaderboards, we have credit systems, but as I said, our all action learning projects, specifically which are leadership programs, are sponsored by business. They're mentored by business leaders. So our entire greed of getting mentored by business leaders, getting the visibility in front of your leadership team is one which pushes them to meet the action learning project. And again, like the way Jay was saying, fortunately, they have a CEO sponsorship. We have something called Kotak Leadership Team, where we have the sponsorship from them. And we do not send out the invitation from a learning and development desk. Most of simple thing, the invitation goes from the leader's desk. Imagine you as an employee getting a mail from your CEO, from your leader, saying you're invited for a program. So most of our leadership programs have got a complete different canvassing way or marketing way, the way we do it.
Thank you. Any thoughts, Aspal, on that? How do you build organization-centric learning intervention, making it future-proofing?
I think both Jay and... Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So both Jay and Usha talked about it. So nothing for me to add, but probably on the evaluation part of it. So maybe maybe what I pointed it out that Jay talked about leadership involvement and all that, and that is very important. But what we are evaluating, that's very important. That are we evaluating a right metric? And the second is after you evaluate, what is the impact? Is evaluation done? What are the next steps? So as I was talking about in the earlier session, that we evaluate skills. That's a currency. So in case you are learning and whatever you are doing, is this your skill is improving? Is the skill gap is reducing, and how it is going? So this skill is the currency for evaluation.
Building, yes.
And the impact is that, okay, what's in it for us? So that's where the use cases come into it. So if your skill gap is decreasing for a employee, it is the mobility opportunity. He can look at any roles inside the organization based on his skills. So that's a very important one. His performance is connected. His compensation is connected. So this is the journey. I won't say that, okay, we have mastered this journey, but we are on this journey. So what to evaluate and what is the impact? These are the two things I would say.
What I'm hearing is it's a continuous journey. And we have to look at the programs, we have to look at the outcomes, the impact it creates, and then go back the cycle. Yeah. So the PDCA cycle that we apply in continuous improvement, I think applies to these programs as well. Changing a little track, moving to the hybrid, Hiren.
Yeah.
So, hybrid, how do you use hybrid learning strategies in your organization? And how much are they effective as the workforce are distributed, people are based in different locations? So what kind of approaches do you use, and how does hybrid play a role in that?
Sure. So first of all, good afternoon all, and once again, thank you so much to the UBS for creating such a wonderful platform for all our L&D professionals. So I've been into sales training and leadership development since last 24 years. So hybrid is a new buzzword. So when we say about hybrid learning strategies, we normally think of only two things. One, what are the things that we're going to push on the digital platform? And what are the things that we are going to push at instructor-led platforms, which is more of classroom interventions and coaching sessions. But there is also a third aspect to it, which is field coaching and interventions. So the way we put in my organization is, we first identify what are those knowledge-based interventions or learnings which a learner requires, where not much of a skill transformation happens, but the knowledge is what the fundamental focus is. So we try to push all those knowledge-based interventions or the learning requirements, we try to push through digital platforms. And there are a lot of tools. Since morning we have been hearing through a lot of AI tools. So what all knowledge-based things that a learner is supposed to require to be productive in his or her field, we try to push through a lot of digital tools. And what all things where a skill transfer is required, we try to have more of an instructor-led, where we invite people or participants to a classroom, and then we have a personalized coach. And not only that, we measure over a period of 3 months, 6 months, what is the knowledge and what is the skill which has transferred. So predominantly knowledge-based, like just an example, when there is a new person who is onboarded, he requires to know what is the company that I keep, what are the value systems that I need to follow, what are the processes that I need to follow. All these are simply knowledge-based, right? So we push those through digital platforms. And then, what are the specific skills which is required to perform his job? Like, if he's there in front of an end customer, there are objections. How is he supposed to handle it? Yes, I mean, Trinity is a platform where you can give them some real-time picture, which I agree. But there, human intervention is required. You need someone as a coach, as a mentor, to guide them where is actually going wrong and what needs to be done. So all the skill-based, just to answer you, we normally have instructor-led training programs and one-on-one personal coaching programs.
I think that's a good strategy. We can differentiate what can work in online and what can work with the instructor-led classroom sessions. In fact, last year, one of the business needs was to develop our manufacturing professionals mid-layer to be ready for senior leadership roles in our manufacturing sites. And we curated a program, and not AI-based, but physical-based. So it took us 3-4 months to curate with the involvement of leadership. And we designed a hybrid.
Sure.
And hybrid had sessions on leadership skills and financial acumen, people development skills, and it worked very well. We just concluded last month that as a 12-month journey, and those people are now evaluated by the leaders for the next roles.
Sure.
So Jay, any thoughts on this from your organization perspective on hybrid?
So similar to what Hiren was saying, we don't look at where people are located, whether they're remote, they are in office. In our case, people are at the malls, at the sites, at the hotels. So we again very similarly look at the kind of intervention what we're trying to drive. Now in our case, one of the biggest buckets of intervention is knowledge sharing, like what Hiren was saying, which is hardcore functional and technical in nature. So in our case, it can be, what are the construction techniques? If we build a mall in Vizag, what went well? Which the others can take from there, because construction is similar whether you're building a mall or a hotel. Then we have really technical things like HVAC, when things go wrong, etc. So all these sessions where my audience base is huge, so a similar construction technique session where I'll have people from malls attending, hotels attending, my commercial real estate, residential real estate, everyone is attending. These we very conveniently drive online, because like again, very similar to what Hiren mentioned is, what we're trying to understand is just understand what's happened, best practices, and learn from the challenges. But the moment we move to the earlier intervention, what we spoke about, which is very leadership in nature, that's where we use this hybrid thing. And I think it's a no-brainer. Anytime a conceptual learning comes into play, you need to have an instructor-led thing. I think the only thing what we're trying to do a lot more apart from instructor-led, where we again get online, is a lot of collaborative learning. When I'm saying learning from, let's say, industry experts, or we have teach back sessions, when someone has learned something in the classroom, they have taken, let's say, a small assignments, they do teach back for the rest of the participants. Or when we look at, learning from peers. So for all of these, we very conveniently use interactive online tools, which we are doing it. And I think that's worked very well for us, because I still think, in-person session or in-person intervention will never die. It's much needed. But I think how you keep on building the momentum, how you do the reinforcements of that is where I think we focus the energies more. So even in terms of, let's say, we use LinkedIn Learning to a fair extent for a lot of our flagship programs, and that's where it helps us, whether we're doing a custom curation of path or whether AI is helping us to curate a path for them. So I think to sum it up, a lot of kind of interventions, what we want to drive is important for us, and we don't hesitate even if we need to send people to the site for in-person, or if we need to call the site people to HO. So that's how at least till now is working in our industry context.
Sure.
Just to add over here, now just understand our roots, how we have been brought up. So, particularly in India, I think we have been very, very kind of a social animal, most of us, right? So, right from the childhood, whatever we wanted to learn, whatever we wanted to clear doubts or anything, we have solved it through group discussions. Now, the only challenge or the only difference is when we were a child, we had a group discussion with our maybe brother, sister, or parents. And now we have become professionals. Okay, we have got a lot of AI tools, technology all around us. But that fundamental DNA of human being hasn't changed. So AI is something very great, and I think it's a fantastic tools which can help us customize and more relevant and specific. But we cannot forget the core of how we human beings are being made learn. And that's where forums like group discussions, now this is again a forum where we all have got together. Now assume this forum, if it would have been only on a digital platform, what would have been the participation rate? What would be the span of attention? So a mix of group discussions, a mix of hybrid, it's very, very important to understand the learner's preferences and then to make our trainings, interventions more relevant.
So we have been hearing about AI and different AI tools that is helping us. I think my next question is to the right person, Jaspal. How AI and part of AI is helping personalize content for learner, because now we're talking about hyper personalization. So how does it help personalize content for learner without overwhelming them? Because they are also being bombarded, bite-sized learning and so many things that we have been seeing since morning. So they say whether we are supposed to do our work or whether we are supposed to finish your learning courses. So how does that AI, without overwhelming them?
That's a great question, and probably I have to repeat.
Because
myself.
you like it.
Pardon?
You like that question.
Yeah, I like that question, but I have to repeat myself because we talked about it a little bit on this. So, and when we say AI and what kind of a recommendation it will give you, so how you are treating the AI. So you probably need to have a unit, like okay. So as I mentioned, skill. So in our organization, we use a learning experience platform, and what we do, a employee can select their skill. So they say, for example, they select 8 skills. Some of them aspirational, and some of them they already have. It is rated by their manager. So skill is validated. And what they do, they can do either a team-focused skill or a person-focused skill. So AI, whatever is your focus skill. So for example, project management is my focus skill. So every day you will only get content on project management. That's one part of it. Second, the project management content is huge. So you will get 1,000 recommendations for that, and so on and so forth. So what you do, the top recommendation in our organization or an organization like ours, what kind of a content people are looking at it. So I think AI provide a hyper personalization. So essentially, if we can look at AI, I'm so sorry, I can't put it off, and I can't see my thing. Sorry, everyone. Can you see this? I can't see well. Sorry again. So AI actually hyper personalize. If you have the basics right, like okay, what are you using AI for, and what is the power of that algorithm? So how people search, how it is getting recommended, it is very important for an organization to build it up. So it's a design level we work on. So I think, I hope I answered your question, that hyper-personalization through AI.
Do you want to share any experiment that you're doing on AI right now with your organization?
Yeah, so one of the fundamental challenge, if I talk about my organization, I represent Kodak Life Insurance. So we have around 3,000 employees on board and around 50,000 distributors whom we are supposed to train and intervene, plus their supervisors, leaders, level 1, level 2 and everything. Now, one of the fundamental challenge that we face is, yes, we have imparted learning based on their need identification and everything, which is fine. But how do you validate them? Whether the learning has actually reached to the last mile, to the last FLS, who is supposed to face the customer on the field. There are so many layers. No? Strategy has been decided at head office, but then there are multiple layers in between. How do we ensure that the actual learning has been given and imparted to the last mile? So that's the challenge not normally we face, and I'm sure a lot of people and a lot of companies face that challenge, all right? So that's where currently we are in a process of evaluating something like what Everthon, our friend presented. Yes. So I think, can there be a tool which can help us provide a standardized or a more specific feedback and a structured, non-biased feedback, which is more customized and learner-centric? So I think we are trying to use AI for validation of people, because L&D is all about train, validate, retrain. That's how people you develop skill and competency. So that's one area where we already are trying to use our AI platform. Another platform at a leadership level, I think I was very impressed with the presentation which one of our friends gave earlier on the business simulation, right? So we have already practiced that in 2014 in our organization, and it really gave us a good mileage. So we had a program for the leadership team, supervisor team, and we had given them various business simulations where they could actually understand where they're going wrong in their business decisions. Correct. So I think those has really helped us. So those are the platforms where we are trying to utilize. But again, AI is a tool, which we have to use as a tool.
Sure.
Naveen, may I just add here?
Yeah.
So AI in every organization we are using for very, very sure is, but we in Kotak again, AI we also use for practicing your skills. We saw a lot of coaching platforms based on AI. So we have some programs here, Leaders as Coach. It's again a longish journey. We're using AI for practicing the skills for coaching or mentoring. We're using AI a lot for L&D analytics. I think that's a problem area for all of us here. We're using a lot of AI for L&D analytics. What, again, Jaspal rightly said, we're using AI for personalized learning journeys. I'm sure we have appraisals around the corner. Every appraisal throws you a learning need from your managers, from your leaders. That's an AI which has been taking care of it now. We're actually not doing it manually. So AI can be a bless, but at the same time, we need to ensure that our teams are upskilled to use those AI tools. Currently, I think the primary problem we are facing is a team which is upskilled to use that AI tools.
As they say, it's not the AI which will make people redundant. It's the people who don't understand AI will be redundant. Yeah. Last, coming to the end of this session and without looking at the impact, all learning interventions today has no meaning. So, Usha, this question is to you in terms of what are the key metrics and success indicators that you look at, while designing these programs? Any ROI? I heard ROI is difficult in the previous session. But any thoughts on that? Quick thoughts on that, Pooja.
You're throwing me the problem area for all of the L&D guys, yeah. The ROI.
I'm grappling with that at least.
I think isolating the data for ROI is the biggest nightmare for what all of us are going through. But I want to go back to the basic first principles, right? Most of us talk about the impact analysis, ROI, once the program is executed, the initiative is done, or specifically if you're going a review with our CHRO or a business lead, then we feel the matrices or the data to show is only your feedback happy sheets or your pre and post assessments. But my humble summation is we need to talk about impact analysis much in the planning phase. We need to go back and think about the lead, lag, traditional means what we are talking about. And AI is going to be one of our helping tool there. Right? Be it your Kirkpatrick model, what Hiren was talking earlier, your learners' satisfaction scores, your NPS scores, your assessment scores helps you to understand if there's a relevant knowledge transfer, knowledge adaptation. But the difficult part is behavior change. And then we talk about the impact there. I'm very happy to say that I stay with the behavior change and keep the impact change with the business or my leader to work around. But behavior change is very, very important when you define when you're planning the intervention. We specifically define measurable learning outcomes, behavior outcomes, and business outcomes. I think if they are well defined with the matrices, before you launch your intervention, mapping the impact is the easiest part. Right? So certainly we talk about your learners' satisfaction NPS score. We talk about pre and post assessment scores. We talk about behavior assessments again through the 360, 180 degree. And then we talk about the ROI or the impact. Some places the impact is possible when you're talking about the functional, but specifically if you're talking about culture or leadership, the difficult part.
Thank you so much.
Just a very quick one on similar lines. So just to reiterate what she was saying is what we try and do differently apart from, everyone does Kirkpatrick level 3, we personally do very similar to what Usha says is at the start of the intervention, what we want to achieve out of this. So very short, small example is the hypo intervention, what we run every alternate years. Our objective of starting it was for talent fungibility. We have 4 distinct businesses. We realize there's not much movements happening amongst businesses. So apart from the behaviors they have adopted, the manager rating them on behavior change, etc., what we try and measure out of it for me, the business success is how many people actually got moved across businesses. So we tried and did our math in the batch 1 2 years back. Currently, when we are talking, the batch 2 is ending. So we keep that as a matrix because that was my initial buy-in I got from business. That I want talent move across businesses. We have architecture, which is a common talent, engineers, which is a common talent. They can easily move across businesses. So we try and keep that as a matrix right at the start, like Usha was saying, and it's worked for us.
Just one thing I would like to add. Let me ask the audience rather one thing. Now, I'm sure most of the L&D heads would have had their budgeting meetings with their CEOs or MDs, right? So when you designed a budget, L&D budget, or L&D strategy, hybrid strategy, or whatever you plan it, when you go towards CDO or CEO and you show your presentation, what is the first thing he asks you? What is the first thing? What is the first slide? What is the first or rather the only slide he's interested in looking at? Investment. Okay. So as a few of you rightly said, the the L&D budget can be either pursued as a cost, where if the productivity is not there, I'll reduce it, or it can be pursued as an investment. Where do one invest? Where they see profits, as simple as that. So while designing or defining the key KPI or matrices, the first thing that has to strike our mind as an L&D head is, what is the business problem that I'm trying to solve for? What is the business problem? And don't assume that your CDOs or CEOs may know everything. You have to have your fair homework. You have to work on a lot of data analytics, understand your business well, and then have a dialogue. Okay, this is what are the 1, 2, or 3 problem statements that our business is having, and this is how I, through L&D strategy, can help solve it. So that's the first thing which one has to keep in mind. That's the only point I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that, what is the business problem we are trying to solve and how L&D can play a role in that. Thank you so much, Usha, Jay, Jaspal, and Hiren, for sharing your thoughts. And I'm sure some things are demystified, particularly, on the evaluation and the impact aspect. Some good pointers which have come, and I really like them in terms of learning, behavior, and leadership outcomes. So, we can probably divide and then we can work on that. Thank you so much, the elite panel as well as the audience, for patiently listening to us. And as we stand between you and lunch, thank you so much, and you can enjoy your lunch.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.